Hi, and welcome to our podcast, The Journey to CEO Success. I'm your co-host, Melissa Saunders, along with Patrick Thean, award-winning serial entrepreneur, CEO coach, and a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestselling author. His latest book, The Journey to CEO Success, is a #1 Amazon bestseller and the inspiration for this podcast. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for welcoming me to the show.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm excited to welcome Shannon Coombs, the president of Hill Fire Protection, a Chicago-based company specializing in fire sprinkler design, installation, service, and inspections. Since joining in 2010, she scaled the business from $3 million to over $65 million, both organically and through strategic acquisitions. Shannon brings a deep commitment to leadership development and community impact, serving on the boards of Chicagoland Association of General Contractors and Girls in the Game. Can't wait to hear about that. Hi, Shannon.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Shannon. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to a show. So first, thank you so much for being on this podcast with us. Our podcast is the main purpose is to help CEOs to have a more joyful and successful life. And so first, I'd love for you to just take 2 minutes and tell us a bit about your company. What does your company do?
Yeah. So, Melissa did a great job introducing. So we're a fire sprinkler contractor. So you think, mechanical systems and plumbing systems. Well, we've put in fire sprinkler systems. So commercial, mostly commercial work. We're based out of Chicagoland, but we're in 10 states. So we're in Northwest Indiana and Indianapolis. We have 3 offices, but we serve, pretty much well over the Midwest, and then a little bit further where clients bring us. But installation, new construction, renovation, retrofit, change out of systems, definitely the service. We hit a lot of different markets. So we're definitely high in healthcare, some of your multifamily, high-rise buildings, which there's not as many being built in Chicago right now, but data center, we do a lot of mission critical work, and then some heavy industrial, pretty much anything, whether it's one sprinkler head to thousands in a job, we can pretty much do anything based on how we've built the business.
So it's mainly commercial and new builds as well as retrofit. I think I heard you say retrofit.
Yep.
So tell me about that. I didn't realize that you could retrofit. Why would you retrofit a building?
Yeah. So when the retrofit law was passed in Chicago, and it was in the early 2000s, it was pretty much any high-rise building that was built before a certain time frame wasn't sprinklered, right? And so they passed the retrofit bill which is essentially going into an existing building that it's not protected and protecting it. They only passed it for the commercial buildings, so residential were not included. It's any building over 80 feet. So you go into an existing building, right? And it's us against the building. You're working through ceilings, you're working through existing plans, you're doing a lot of surveying up and down. So a lot of college dorms originally weren't sprinklered and then were sprinklered over the years. So those are the type of buildings you'll start to see where they weren't or they were landmarked in. We did Wrigley Field in Chicago. So that was when they did the renovation that was not originally sprinklered, that's now fully protected. So some buildings, there's a lot of old buildings in a lot of cities. Yeah, that's typically where you'll see it.
I'm curious whether, I'm curious. I mean, I would imagine that a new building is in many ways easier to do. You have a blueprint, you kind of put it out there and you install. A retrofit, I think, would be more difficult, weird. And I'm curious which one you find more interesting to do.
Yeah, as an engineer, I like the challenge. So, kind of a new building, it's nothing's easy. You can have the exact same building built by 2 different general contractors, and they'll be built very differently. You'll have a different schedule, different time frame, different plans, different architects. So new building, there's a lot of exciting things, right? You're going up, you're seeing it go through. When you're in an existing building, it's you against the building. So you can kind of be creative, find different ways to do it. I mean, I've had to bend copper piping in areas to get through. And so we've been able to do some pretty cool creative things. The formerly Sears Tower, but the Willis Tower, we did some new work with their Reformation project too. We got to do some pretty cool things in an existing building. Also, they did a whole renovation. So that was part of it. But actually the existing, it's harder. It's a lot more challenging. There's less competition because less people want to get dirty into some of that work. But for me, that's the fun stuff.
So tell me a little bit more about the fun stuff. What part of your job do you find the most enjoyable?
Yeah, I mean, now anymore, I mean, I've been doing this over 23 years. I'm not on the jobs as much. So when I get on job sites, that's fun when I can see the guys working and see what's happening. But for me, it's really been the growth. It's the people. When I see my employees start to, get promoted or get into the next level, or we'll look at succession planning, and it's not only where do you want to go, it's who's going to replace you and who are you training to get underneath you. And so that constant growth and movement, that's what energizes me. Now at the level I'm at, mostly it's legal and attorneys and insurance and all, not the fun stuff that I do every day, where that all hits my plate. The fun things for me is when I get on the jobs, when I get in front of a client, when we get a compliment from a customer, or a designer has a great, product that they send out, and we've got the comments from people. That's where I'm like, all right, we're doing the right things. We have the right people. But when I see my group or people, someone's got to want my job, and they're like, I want your job, and here's what I'm going to do, and the leadership and the growth, that's what I find fun. It doesn't have to be in sprinkler systems, right? It can be any industry I find myself in, but that's really
you love the work of the people. You love the work of growing your team and growing the people, seeing them flourish and succeed. But you started more as an engineer, right? So how did you go on your journey from doing the engineering work to enjoying the people? I'm curious because I'm an electrical engineer myself, by the way. My first company, I was a programmer. I wrote a code and everything, and I also had to make this transition. But I'm curious as to how you identified or how it happened such that you went from doing the work, the engineering work, into building off the people, building off the company, and how did you figure that out, and how did you transition that way?
Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, I'm sure. But in the beginning, so I was raised by a single mom, and I always worked. I was never afraid of hard work. I was working at a young age. I put myself through college. I worked 3 jobs while getting my engineering degree. And and I was a waitress and a bartender. I mean, I did all the things. So I was always around people. And I always kind of took a leadership role, even at a young age, in those positions. But when I started I got a couple job offers out of college, and one was to work as a fire sprinkler contractor, as a project manager, but you designed as well. They were based out of Minneapolis. But I was traveling to Chicago every week for about 8 months for projects here. And I'm from this area. So it was a sink or swim company. There wasn't a lot of training. It was kind of, you jump in, you figure it out. And I watched others not make it, and I was like, oh wow, this is no joke. And my boss at one time had told me, he was like, he's like, I never asked for permission. I just took over things. I would just start taking on more things. So I did that. I was recruiting, I was hiring, I was designing, I was running the shop. So it all just started to become natural. I didn't have a lot of leadership training or guidance on the management side. So I learned the hard way, and I made, definitely mistakes, but because I was not afraid to get my hands dirty, I was never afraid to get out on the job sites and talk to the fitters and see what was happening. I built a good reputation for myself. So when I
think I want to summarize, you shared so many good lessons right there. and I know that this podcast is really aimed at our more senior folks, the CEOs, but I got 2 daughters in their 20s, and so I can't wait to share your podcast with my 2 girls, and so I would say that you shared, number 1, don't be afraid of the hard work, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, but you also shared this real important nugget, which is don't ask for permission, right? Just grab the bull by the horns and just go do it. So I love that don't ask for permission, just go do it. I always like to say, don't ask for permission. In many cases, ask for forgiveness later. Yeah. Just go do it. So congratulations.
No, thank you.
Please continue. How did you then discover that you enjoyed the work with people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was natural. I think I've always felt that way, like that. And then once I saw others start to build underneath me, that became exciting. And then I came to Hill, and they gave me an opportunity. I was looking to leave where I was at. They were having, 08, 09 wasn't a great time to be in the construction industry, and they were having some financial issues. So I made the move. I took a leap. It was definitely a a rebuild of a company that kind of sold me a bag of goods a little bit. Like, we have a great team and people, and I had to rebuild the business. But the best kind of like shining moment for me was almost all my fitters followed me. They all wanted to work with my team. Our shop foreman came over. And so the people that wanted, they saw the success. And so, I was 30 years old and actually pregnant when I started at Hill. And it was eye-opening, but also I was like, all right, I've got the team, I've got the following, we can do this. And then we added, a lot of people and grew, but it was having those moments where clients trusted me, my team trusted me, and then we'll make mistakes, but guess what? We're going to figure it out. And that's kind of been my attitude the whole time is no one's perfect. I'm far from perfect. We're going to make a mistake, but don't get bottlenecked there. Like, don't let it freeze.
What role did you take when you came to Hill?
What did I say that again?
What role did you take when you
I was the general manager when I came over to run the sprinkler business. And then Hill has multiple businesses, HVAC, plumbing, test and balance. They've got a controls business as well. So the sprinkler company was brand new, and it was originally a joint venture. So I came over as the GM, and then in 2010 and then in 2014, we bought a competitor. So it was my first acquisition. I learned a lot, and I became president and an owner.
Gotcha.
So same role, just different title.
So when you guys bought the company was when you became president and owner?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and they gave me the opportunity to buy in. They're like, bet on yourself, or it could be there's different options. And I said, I'll bet on myself. I'll buy into the company. I believe in what we're doing, and good people. And I think I was never afraid to take a risk, and that's probably been the biggest thing throughout my entire career is I'll take a risk, but I'll bet on myself. And so calculated risk sometimes. Other times, guess what? So we'll take a risk, and sometimes it doesn't pan out, but we'll pivot. Being okay making that change, and then admitting, hey, we got to move and make a different decision too.
Betting on yourself and betting on your company is actually one of the key ways of becoming really successful. I mean, it's I've been told before, like, if you can't bet on yourself, who can you expect to bet on you? And no matter what we try and do, people can see through us, So being willing and able to bet on yourself is really key to success. So congratulations that you, at an early age, able to bet on yourself, bet on your company. And that's actually how success is. And frankly, wealth is also built, because wealth comes when you bet on something when it's early. When less people believe in it, actually. So when you are new and young and you're an unknown person yet, really, or haven't really put your success in the world yet, unknown in that sense, and you bet on yourself, that's really the best time to place your bets.
Yeah, for sure. Also,
what are your dreams today? What do you enjoy? What do you enjoy doing today? And what are your dreams for the company today?
Yeah, it's still the build, right? Two of our acquisitions, we had one in 2021 in Northwest Indiana, and then one in 2022 in Indianapolis. So I'm still going, that's only been, so 3/4 of my staff's been with me less than 5 years. So it's still a lot of training, building, making sure we have a strong foundation. We've grown fast. So really focusing on the business, the growth, making sure we're set up for continued success in the future, and that we do have a lot of succession planning conversations. And, my goal is to continue to grow and build, but I've been going pretty hard the last 15 years as, leading this company. I don't want to go as hard for the next 15, but I won't step away. I'd love to transition at some point, but not leave, right? Be the mentor that kind of guides the next person to come in. I don't want to step out and be gone. But really kind of be part of that transition plan. And I mean, that's what excites me is we continue to grow and build. How many more layers? We did a strategic plan presentation where I had my leaders, my managers all put teams together who then helped develop all of our goals. I had to step myself out of it, let them that's the fun for me. That's exciting. It's the challenge, and it brings new perspectives that I may not have had.
So as you grow the firm, what have you found with the limiting factors of your growth, and how did you attack those?
Right. I mean, we make a product. We're contractors. So it's talent, the right people, motivating them. People have different motivating factors. I think the biggest mistake I've made through some of it is I kind of always had the mentality, everyone wants to kind of move up. grow and build. And I've actually prematurely promoted people that later were like, it was too much responsibility. And in my head, I was like, but you're so good.
Yes.
And you have it. And Shannon, but I'm not you. I don't want that. I don't want the extra responsibility. I don't want us to sacrifice things for the company. I'm not willing to do that. I love the money. I love what you're paying me to do it, but I don't want it. And I've had to really learn the hard way and ask better questions of what does motivate you? What do you want? So that I'm putting the right people in the right place.
How did you help those people succeed differently after you've made the mistake, so to speak, of promoting the person beyond the desire, actually, not beyond the capability, because you saw the capability, but beyond the desire? What did you do then? Did you have
typically what would happen is they would tell me, I'm leaving you and I'm going somewhere for less responsibility.
Yeah.
And that was a hard nut to swallow, right? I had to learn that the hard way. And I had one come to me and say, I want to retire here. I love this company. I love the success. I don't want to do what I'm doing. And so we shed work from them. We modified their role. Eventually they did leave us. And that's where part of I understand growing a company as fast as we have. I've had to really reflect more on myself is I can't push everyone. They don't all want to do it. But then those that want to go, I'm like, are you sure? Is this what you want? And really just making sure that we're supporting in the right way. And it's a tough industry. Construction's not easy.
Were you able to save many folks that chose to leave because too much responsibility when they said, I'm leaving you, I need to go find a job with less responsibility, and you go, man, I want to keep you. Were you able to save them? And if you did, how did you do that?
Yeah, it's the conversation. It's the transparency. That I believe in full transparency. I'm an open book person. I share all financials. I share everything, how the success, good and bad. We share a lot of good. We talk about victories. We share the bad, and definitely it's being transparent, open conversations. We've got boomerangs. I have people that have left and be like, nope, I'm coming back. Yes. So we see that too, and then sometimes it's just understanding the grass may not be greener; it might be a different shade. And so, how do we decide? What's the right fit for them? And then showing the opportunities. Okay, you don't have to, right? You could be in design and end up in project management in my company. You don't have to leave here and go somewhere else to do that. We've got a career flow path, and there's different ways we can do it. So it's really just having those conversations early and often, and that their managers are open to that too. But I mean, I think we just ran the stats. Over 50% of my team is in a different role today than when they started. Some lesser, higher. I mean, my shop foreman's a great example. He came over, then he was my shop manager. He was like, this is terrible, Shannon, I hate it. Moved back to shop foreman. He's been with me over 20 years. There's different roles and different people, but as long as we're willing to be vulnerable and have the conversation and say, this is not for me, but I love this company. I want to be here. I love our culture. I want to be in a different seat on the bus, but I still want to be on this bus.
I found when I went through a similar journey as you, I found that one of the challenges I've had is when I met a lot of leaders like you who really love the people. And sometimes a leader like you has a really beautiful heart for the people. And the challenge I've seen is that your desire for their future sometimes is greater than the desire for themselves. And so in such a situation, I think you got to figure out how to help grow their desire or accept that their desire for themselves is actually less than yours. And I remember the first time that happened to me, I was really disappointed. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I don't understand. Like you're so good, and I can see you in this role, and and when I was faced with but I don't want to do that. Like you said, I want more time with my family. I really didn't understand that. I was like, why can't you do both? Why can't you do both? So I want to first commend you for really caring about your people that way. But secondly, I can see that you grew. Like you had to. In my book, I talk about being curious, 7 practices to CEO success. First 2 are being curious. Second one is leveling up myself. And I think I've seen in this quick discussion how you've leveled up yourself and through reflections. Tell us a bit more about your own personal growth and how you've been able to level up such that you have enjoyed your journey all these years and you've moved from role to role in your company. And how have you done that?
Yeah, it's not easy, right? I'm like I said, I make mistakes. I've made I've had to decide what I'm willing to sacrifice every day, right? And I hate to say it in a negative tone, but it's days where there's days my family doesn't get the benefit of Shannon, right? And there's days the company doesn't get the benefit of Shannon. And I've had to really learn over the years where's my most valuable time spent and where is that needed, and kind of
that changes. That changes. That's the difficult part, right?
It changes daily, right? It can change. I've got a freshman in high school and a sixth grader, so 14 and 12. And so, when they're younger, right, the demand is different, but you have help and support. As they get older, the problems are a little different, and the struggles and the conversations. But I've really, Vistage has been amazing for me. I kind of use my Vistage group as almost like my personal board of directors. There's a trust, there's a vulnerability, there's a value there, and they are not afraid to challenge me. And so I find myself, I'm fine being challenged. Question me, ask me why'd you do this? What is that the best decision? I've got different mentors for different things throughout my career. One of our acquisitions, I called this gentleman Al Fox, and it's like, you've been through this before, give me some of your feedback. Now our disc profiles are very similar. So I know I'm going to get we're going to be like-minded on this. But when I need to be challenged, I want a different perspective, I don't need to go to someone that's got a similar kind of personality or mindset to mine. I need to go to somebody who's going to give me something totally different so that I can open, there's times, and you have to really understand yourself too. I know when I'm headstrong and I'm like, nope, we're going here and this is what we're doing. And other times I'm like, I have to be open-minded, or I would not have gotten to where the company size is. I mean, I have 230 some or 240 employees. I had 13 when we started. All of those changes and transitions, Vistage has been a big support, my mentors, and just having friends that I can bounce ideas off of and that we're open with, and also like being able to check myself, right? Hey, you have not seen your kids enough this week. You've had dinners or work events, and I'm on the boards of different things. And sometimes it's nope, I'm going to miss a meeting. I have to, right? I have to take that time to make sure I'm focusing in the right places. I didn't always have that perspective. I'm divorced, so that's one of probably the sacrifices of, and we get along and we're cordial, but there's definitely things where I look back and I spend a lot of time on the business too, and what are the sacrifices I was willing to make. I've had to change that perspective going forward too, and also I am terrible at asking for help. I don't ask for help. I think I can do it all myself. I think I can go through. And that's probably been the biggest thing in a relationship, that I never asked for help when I needed it until it was too late.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. What is your disc profile, by the way?
I'm a result oriented, high D, middle I, low S, and middle C.
So when I've done a lot of disc work, and this teaches you not to actually ask what I asked. So I apologize for that, right? This teaches you that you're not a profile. It's the profile you show up with at work most of the time. And so results oriented, probably high dominance is the profile that you show up with most of the time. However, I've found that great leaders have to figure out how to show up with all the right DISCs at the right time, right? So at the right time, when you got to be empathetic and you've got to use your intuition. You got to show up more of the I, and when it's time for you to be more supportive and consistent, you got to show up with the other one. So just the fact that you've been able to share all these stories, I can see you've shown up with the right things, and so you strike me as a very intentional leader. Like, you prioritize well, and maybe, as you said, maybe you could take some things back. You would have prioritized differently in your reflections, but you strike me as a very intentional leader that prioritizes her life and is intentional how you show up and what you choose to take on. Is that true?
No, spot on. That's actually a word we use in our retreat, our management retreat, all the time, to be intentional about our decisions, how we're approaching things. One of my vice president of operations, he's like, intentional. It was like the word of the day, but 100%. And I think all of my leaders, that's really what we focus on, is making sure that we're leading with intent, and that we're making the decisions that are for the right reasons, and then not just because.
So we got a couple of minutes left, but tell us about your involvement in Girls in the Game.
Yes.
Why do you do that? You must love that, right?
I do. I didn't grow up with money. I grew up pretty poor. We were welfare and Section 8 kids for a period of time, and my mom was a single mom with 4 kids. So I got involved over 10 years ago. An opportunity, I sat in on a committee meeting, and next thing you know, I'm on the board and the biggest fundraiser. But seeing these girls thrive, and so it's one of the few organizations of girls from elementary school, all through high school. They come into your company and can do leader-to-leader interviews, understand perspectives. They're getting exposed to companies, industries, and people and executives they would have never had that exposure for. It's a lot of tier 2 and 3 schools inside Chicagoland where these girls don't have the exposure and aren't given some of the opportunities. I volunteer. I run their. I don't run it, but I'm I'm on the committee for the gala. That's kind of my big event of the year that I support every year. And we do a lot. My company gets involved. All of my employees show up. But the volunteering and seeing the impact that we can have on youth and giving something back that I didn't have. I wish I had girls in the game when I was a kid. I would have been able to have exposure that I didn't have. I wasn't privy to. So I'm passionate about it. I love it. It's been good for me.
Well, like I said, I'm dying to share your podcast with my 2 daughters. And so I've got to ask you a selfish question, which is, what advice would you give my 2 girls, who are, and they're in a male-dominant industry as well. Both my girls are software programmers. They're engineers like their dad, and they work in the aerospace industry. So I still remember my older daughter saying the first place she went to as an intern. So I walked in and there's like 30 people in the Zoom, Dad, because it was during COVID. So 30 people on Zoom, and these are all old white guys, and I'm the only girl. So what advice do you give young girls like that who are excited about life and thriving and in a male-dominant industry?
Yeah, it's intimidating, and that's okay. It's okay it's okay to be in that place and feel intimidated, but listen, learn, be curious, ask the right questions. And I think definitely when you're younger is finding a mentor or somebody that you really can kind of bounce ideas off of in our industry. It's very seldom that I'm the only woman in the room anymore, but it still happens. I just was in a meeting. There was 25 of us the other day, and I counted. I was like, oh wow, I haven't sat in a room like this in a while, because we've got more and more women have entered our field. But the biggest thing is that don't speak because you feel like you need to be heard, but also don't be afraid to share your thoughts. And sometimes there's a happy medium of like I want to make sure I can shine and show. But listen and learn. For me, I always never, ever, ever went to a meeting unprepared. If I go to a meeting, I walk the job site first. I know exactly what I'm looking at. I never just show up late or run in and don't know what's going on. I made sure I was always prepared. And I was not given the benefit of the doubt from the first meeting or the first introduction. And I had to really get over it. And guess what? The man next to you might, and they might speak to him instead of you. And hopefully you're around somebody who's going to say, nope, let her speak. Or, she had a comment on this, and they're not trying to overpower it, but don't be afraid. And I think that's where kind of we look back, we're like, oh, I'll sit back and kind of shout, step forward, lean in, ask the questions and be curious. It's not easy. And that's probably been one of the things where I look back and someone asked me recently, how did you do it? And I look back and I'm like, I don't know, but I never was afraid. And I always asked questions, and there's no bad question. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best question. But I wanted to learn. And so that curiosity has really gotten to me where I am today. But finding that support structure, that mentor, that person, especially as a woman in our business, has really paid off.
Thank you so much. So, this podcast is to help CEOs be more joyful and successful in their lives. And so the last question I have for you, is want to ask all our guests, is what advice would you like to leave with our audience for them to have a more joyful and successful life?
Yeah, surround yourself with people who challenge you. And for me personally, I travel. I don't spend a lot of money on stupid gifts. Really, it's about experiences. And I take that to work too. Wherever I go for a project, whatever, I look at it as an experience. And I love to travel, get out of my comfort zone, see new things. The All Trails app's my favorite app in the world, and find another hike or walk or see a landmark somewhere. But just that curiosity and just ask the questions, but don't be afraid to be challenged. Make yourself uncomfortable sometimes. You'll never know what you'll get afterwards.
Well, thank you very much, Shannon. And All Trails, love it. You got to visit me in Seattle. I'll take you hiking.
All right, love it.
Melissa, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon, for joining us today. Very inspirational. And if someone wants to get involved in the organization you talked about, where do they go?
girlsinthegame.org.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And thanks for being part of our podcast. Till next time, go out there, enjoy this journey, take a walk. Until next time, bye now.